So I will just, what we will focus here, conscious also of time and our translators, is an example of an application of a EIB-funded project in Cyprus. So first I will throw a few words about the road safety condition in Cyprus as a strategy and action plans, then describe the EIB-funded CRSP project back in 2021-22. Throw a few words about the strategic path in Cyprus, basically saying things that other people have more or less mentioned in the morning section, and then recent EIB support in Cyprus. So this is Cyprus, on the southeast part. Here are just some trends for getting the idea from our colleagues that mentioned how they're doing in terms of the road fatalities and the injuries, the serious injuries. Doing well on the injuries, but trying to struggle there with the target to have the fatalities as many other countries. And of course, the statistics of the percentage of fatal road collisions and victims by category, something that we don't want to see, but this is the picture in Cyprus. So the strategy, going a little bit historically, started back in the 80s, and now we're in the third generation strategic plan, following the 2004-11 and 2012-2020, adopting the European Union strategy for road safety. So as in many other countries, our key challenges are the urban areas, built-up areas, cities and villages, and we have issues with motorcyclists, young males, people from abroad living in Cyprus. We drive on the left side, so that's sometimes also an issue. Pedestrian being also a challenge, and general disobedience. That I think this project by the EIB helped develop some culture slowly within the driving population. So one major target that I'll mention in the next slide, followed by splitting down to 5 secondary targets, 8 action sectors, follow in line with a safe system approach, some policy areas, and specific actions. So the major target, as people have also mentioned, is halving the road fatalities, injuries by 2030. And then the other 5 pillars are back on those challenges that I mentioned for the young adults, motor vehicles, pedestrians, motorcyclists, and foreign people living in Cyprus. The 8 pillars, again, in the little bit sense of the safe system approach people were mentioning: legislation, safer road infrastructure, the challenges of even training and examining candidate drivers, safer vehicles, and then awareness of the people, post-crash response, research, and organizational structure. So the project that was funded by the EIB was asked to mention a few words about was back in 2021-22, which was a technical assistant program. In fact, Professor Marco there worked on it. EIB assigned the service contract to Suez. Dr. Sebovic and Mr. Stelios Stadiades run the project with the IRAP methodology, and gave us an insight as to selecting inspections for a sample of road network, giving us, let's say, a program, an outlook on how to implement the safe system in Cyprus over the next decade, suggestions for infrastructure investments, and training components. And we're picking that up in view of the application of the RISM directive for all of us. So people were mentioning the human factor and infrastructure in terms of collisions being by far the dominant factor. And in terms of monetary values, back when the analysis was done, we can see more than $1 billion of economic losses for the summation of FSIs, the fatalities and serious injuries, which for Cyprus is pretty much in the order of 5% of the GDP. It's a big number. So what was being done it was the application of the IRAP methodology through the software. They were given a selection of existing roads, 147 kilometers, a mixture, motorways, primary roads, and all sorts, and also 66 kilometers of road designs. In fact, a couple of them have already been built and given to traffic. Just some views of the system in Cyprus. So a few words, the IRAP methodology basically creates some maps that allow at a glance to see the risk on particular segments, the segments that people, the consultants evaluated, using crash data, as we all know, and creating those stars, sort of like what they do in cars, but in a more element approach, and with a view to suggest road safety investment plans. So just going a little bit quick here, this star rating maps, I think the next slide is a little bit more focused. No, I think it's going forward anyway. So sorry about that. It goes forward instead of back. Yeah, here it is. So for vehicle occupants, we had these sections that were being given to existing road sections that were being given to our consultants, run the evaluation for vehicle occupants, motorcyclists, pedestrians. So the initial results were these. Bear in mind that star 3 and above is more or less what people would have wanted. So clearly there was room for increase. And through the measures that they were doing by running the model, and we will see later on the economics of it, they were able to pretty much make everything above 3 stars for vehicle occupants and more or less for motorcyclists as well. And some of the countermeasures, as were being mentioned before, roadside barriers, and for everything there was an estimation of the benefit in value, the cost to get the program benefit to cost ratio, which we will mention later. It was in the high orders, like our colleague from the EIB was mentioning. So through the model, you can assess each one of these, like let's say traffic calming measures or street lighting or adding barriers or increasing the sight distance to see as a tool how to improve. The same thing, and I will go a little fast here, the same thing was done on design sections, pretty much assessing, pretty much developing better outlook. And as an extra deliverable, they will do some short, medium, and long-term suggestions, things that we already have tried and are underway. For example, emergency gates, colleagues picked up on that one, and it's an ongoing project. Crash cushions and safety barriers, that's for everything, guardrail terminals, everything that had been assessed. What the project did was, assuming a budget of 58 million in the project and making all the countermeasures that were suggested, and also applying a way of how to deploy the budget within the next 15 years. The net present value was in the order of $500 million and the benefit to cost ratio above 10. So projects like this, interventions that pay in the long term. So quickly here, the safe system approach. Dr. Sander, I believe, elaborated extensively on this one, so we don't need to mention it. These 5, let's say, pillars of people, drivers, safer roads, and post-crash care. So in Cyprus, this links also to that first traffic law enforcement cameras of fellow colleague from Sweden called them with a very more polite name, let's say, for speed. Instead of traffic law enforcement cameras, they were speed limit and all that. So that's another EIB project that was funded in Cyprus right after this one within the 2022-2024 period. I think our colleague from EIB mentioned it. It was on 90 cameras in 30 locations and 20 mobile cameras at specific spots where we had problems, and we have already seen a decline as basically reduction of speeds and violation of the traffic signals, mostly the red light and all that. So one pillar will be legislation, the other one will be on the training, trying to be a little bit more on the novice drivers and also for drug-related violations people were mentioning before, and revision of the traffic code to have the safe system principles in. Specific MOT has already been going on for quite some time, but it's being more and more obligatory, and there are efforts for people to change, to slowly switch to newer cars, because some of our cars are aging in Cyprus. Education and the introduction of the road safety ambassador. We really believe that kids who are going to be driving in the next years are very important to be given this culture. Driving is a culture thing. In fact, walking around yesterday, I have to mention, people would just, I thought I was in San Francisco. I mean, people would just let you drive. I was expecting, people, more, let's say, honking on their horns or whatever, but they were being so polite. I think that's culture. It's a culture thing. Post-crash response, especially in rural areas, even for a small place like Cyprus, it's a challenge with the mountain, rural roads and all that. First response is critical for the human body and everything. And of course, targeted investments in specific locations, as mentioned with our program that made these suggestions. Before we finish, I also like to say that after that project with the cameras was a success, as late as last December, there was another EIB loan signed the 20th of December in Cyprus with the EIB. On the left is our Ministry of Transport, Ministry of Finance in the center, and the Vice President of the EIB on the right, for vital road infrastructure improvements, including, of course, road safety in Cyprus. So I hope I didn't put a lot of effort on our translators, going a little bit hard. The Greek words wouldn't translate exactly as the yellow, but the meaning is that. So thank you very much.
Thank